In 2014, after finishing Virtue's Last Reward, the second Zero Escape game, I finally had a purpose in life. Operation Bluebird. This loose conglomerate of folks was basically a campaign to push publisher Axis and developer Spike Chunsoft to make the final Zero Escape game and complete the trilogy. Somehow, my reward for this was becoming Facebook friends with director Kotaro Uchikoshi. While Zero Time Dilemma did eventually arrive and is best described as fine, Virtue's Last Reward remains the most intelligent narrative structure I've ever seen in a game and is an all-time great. Uchikoshi's follow-up in 2019, AI The Somnium Files, was a neat new direction that I had a great time with, but it desperately needed tweaking in a few places. When the sequel, the Nirvana Initiative, was announced, I knew that Spike Chunsoft had taken notes. I cannot describe how hyped I was for this game, how confident I was it would be my game of the year, and it would be Spike Chunsoft's best game yet. And against all the odds, it is. The first question most people have is, can I play this game without playing the first one? Ordinarily in video games the answer is yes, as the publishers generally want as many people to be able to buy it as possible. For the Nirvana Initiative, I would think my answer is kind of. The characters in the game tutorial actually ask you, the player, if you played the first game. If you say yes, they quiz you about the events that transpired to prove it. If you tell the Nirvana Initiative that you skipped the first game, they will tell you that's quite alright, and it will add extra bits of dialogue and exposition when meeting returning characters, so that their actions won't leave you confused. So technically you could. There is a considerable amount of interaction with returning characters though, and a lot of nuanced jokes and references are going to totally fly over your head. So final answer is you could, but don't. The first game is currently on PC and Xbox Game Pass, so get to it. If you're not familiar with the Spike Chunsoft visual novel hybrids like AI, Danganronpa, and Zero Escape, they're much more packed with gameplay than the genre tags would lead you to believe. While Zero Escape blends horror with 3D puzzles and agonizing decision-making, AI is much more of a detective thriller. You'll find twists, turns, secrets, and clues hidden about everywhere as you hunt down a merciless serial killer who has been terrorizing near-future Japan by splitting people in half at the molecular level, alive. For the first half of the game, you'll take control of Ryuki, a junior detective at Abyss, which is a special crimes unit of the police that uses cyberpunk gadgets and machinery to investigate specialized crimes. This first half of the Nirvana Initiative takes place only a few months after the first game's conclusion, and you and your AI ball companion Tama will investigate a string of mysterious murders across Tokyo by traveling to dozens of interesting locations, meeting tons of well-written three-dimensional characters, and solving some very innovative 3D puzzles. Tama is an all-powerful AI that lives in an artificial eyeball in Ryuki's head, and has a direct link with his mind as well as all the information in the internet and at Abyss, and can even help Ryuki see around him in X-ray or thermovision. In Somniums, which we'll get to, she takes the form of a mature woman relentlessly teasing Ryuki and keeping him in line. Her relationship with Ryuki is probably my favorite in the game, and she's brought to life with some excellent voice acting by the wonderfully talented Inaris Quinones, who you might know from Pokemon, My Hero Academia, or Demon Slayer. The general rhythm of the Nirvana Initiative is traveling to a few locations, working your way through many fully voiced dialogue trees, investigating locations and items Phoenix Wright style, and then speaking to Tama to help you mentally piece together what it all means. You'll then bring in Person of Interest to the sync machine back at Abyss, which lets you travel into their Somnium. You have exactly 6 minutes to solve it, but brilliantly, time only moves when you're moving. You have unlimited time to stand still and consider your next action, so it's actually a great balance of strategy and racing against the clock. Each of the Somniums is wildly different. One's an escape room, one is literally Pokemon Go, and one is a crazy Japanese game show, and so on and so forth. A person's Somnium is basically their eternal dream. It's not a dream they're having while asleep, it's the physical manifestation of the things that are their mind. The Somnium presents itself with a number of mental locks, or things that a person is either repressing or hiding. The Somniums are monumentally improved over the first game. In that game, you would basically need to trial and error, brute force your way through puzzles, since a lot of them didn't follow logical sense, and why would they? They're dreams, and things in dreams mostly don't make sense. This, however, does make it a poor game mechanic, no matter if the lore explains it. In the Nirvana Initiative, every time you take an action in Somnium, you're given a small piece of information on how the rules of that Somnium work. Is down up here? Does fire put out water? Do soda cans need to be unlocked with a key and locked doors need to be popped open? You'll find out slowly as you experiment and take advantage of the timies. Each time you take an action in solving a puzzle, you'll be given a timie that can be later applied to an action and reduce that time cost. This adds a second layer to puzzle solving of rationing the better timies for actions that might take longer, but knowing you can only hold 3 of them at once. All of this balances out to become exactly what they were trying to nail in the first game. The Somnium is a chain of challenging but solvable logic puzzles, where the rules of the world are slowly revealed to the player, each providing clues on how to progress, with both the strategy elements of puzzles combined with the anxiety of a time crunch seamlessly. Besides 2 puzzles in a later Somnium, I was able to logic my way through all of them without outside help just based on the clues provided to me and what I knew about the characters. And that's the genius part. Getting inside each person's Somnium shows you who they are on the inside versus who they are on the outside. Getting to know the amazing characters this way brings a whole new level of depth to them, and you just aren't going to find that in most other games. In the second half of the game, you'll play as Mizuki 6 years later, and the gameplay loop remains largely the same but with even more intrigue. Every so often, you'll get to an action sequence, and I have to say these are definitely the worst part of the game. The action sequences happen maybe once per chapter at most, but they largely consist of you watching Ryuki or Mizuki running around doing anime-style kicks and flips for maybe 6 minutes, and every minute or so doing a quick time event. I would say about 75% of them aren't really necessary to the plot, just some thugs happen to show up and another fight sequence happens. I'm not going to beat around the bush, they do suck. Luckily they can also be skipped through, so I'm not much worse for the wear. Watching long stretches of cutscenes with random QTEs is not really what anyone's here for. What I am here for, however, is the fantastic best-in-class music. The first game had good music, it wasn't really anything notable to me, but the Nirvana Initiative has absolutely the best soundtrack of 2022 so far. It is bangers straight from the beginning to the end, and it hits pretty much every genre I can think of. Composer Keisuke Ito has an impressive resume, including every Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, Yakuza, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, but this is very certainly his best work. I have been jamming to this soundtrack every day. I cannot recommend it enough, it is on Spotify. Stop watching this. Go, listen now. I'll put a link in the description, that's how much I want you to do this. And not to mention the dance sequences that will never fail to bring a smile to my face.
To the station, the crowd squeezes out my frustration, and now I'm taking heat in the classroom.
Oh well, I'll eat a donut in the bathroom. One thing I haven't really stressed yet, the Nirvana Initiative is probably the funniest video game I've ever played. Yeah, it is funnier than any of the Yakuza games, and it does it consistently. I laughed out loud every few minutes during this 25-hour romp. Tama and Ryuki especially have a perfect relationship to produce constant comedic moments, and I always loved seeing people kick the shit out of Date for being an asshole whenever he showed up again. The performances in this game are top of the line too, with some great talent behind them, including Sungwon Cho, who you may know as Pro ZD, as the gentle giant Gen, YouTube musician Amelie as Kizzy,
Now I hear my friend got herself a boyfriend. They're going out for barbecue on the weekend.
and the immensely talented late Billy Comets in his final role as the show-stealing serial killer Terror. The English cast is full of the industry's best, and you can tell not a single person phoned it in. I haven't even gotten to the real brilliance of the story, which I can't specifically reveal. Suffice it to say that when you reach it, you'll realize that your preconceived notions of what a video game is and can be have led your entire investigation astray. The cracks that form in the story as you're playing are not writing mistakes, they are your brain's mistakes. There's no way you'd figure it out before it's revealed, in my opinion, but all the clues are theoretically there. Honestly, I haven't had a story twist experience like this since BioShock in 2008, and that's what pushes the Nirvana Initiative across the finish line, as close to a perfect game. In addition to my previous comments about the action sequences, my only negative comment is that there's a weird amount of time in the Nirvana Initiative that's just kind of dead air. Luckily, there's a skip button to fast forward through segments where a character is slowly walking for a full minute without speaking, so it's pretty easily forgivable. The Nirvana Initiative improves on its predecessor in every way, bringing in twice as many interesting, layered characters that all get their time in the sun, crazy mysteries with twists I never saw coming, intelligent writing, vastly improved puzzles, impeccable voice acting, and the best soundtrack of the year. I am shocked to say this, but I think the package as a whole outdoes Spike Chunsoft's previous works. Whatever Uchikoshi's next project is, whether it's AI3 or something new, we all need to be there day one. No one else is making games like him, and frankly, I'm not sure anybody could if they tried. 10 out of 10. Lustrous. I recommend this game to everyone, even those who are normally averse to visual novels, though I wholly encourage you to play the first game before sinking your teeth into the Nirvana Initiative. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment your thoughts, remember to like and subscribe, and you can find us at GameLuster.com.